So we've got a pretty interesting job here, at least I think so, that a customer came in and he's got these parts. Let me show you the part. Okay. I've got two of these. They're cast iron, an original sand casting. You can see the casting marks inside. These are well over 100 years old, and they are irreplaceable. Okay. Because they're irreplaceable, what is happening is the owner needs to reproduce these, and he's going to have them recast at a foundry. Foundry needs a mold first, can't make a mold from this part. The part has to be split horizontally so the two halves can be separated so the foundry can make a mold. Okay, so there's what we need to do. Okay. In the process of doing this, we really need to think about what we're doing. And yeah, that's pretty obvious, right? We're machinists. You should probably think about what you're doing before you do it. Okay. So, you know, the best laid plans never survive first contact with the enemy, as paraphrased, but you get the point. But we're still going to make our plan. So our plan here is going to involve, you know, first step, work holding. We have to clamp that thing down somehow without damaging it. Okay, so work holding is step number one. Okay, now step number two is locating. All right, so we have some equipment for locating, which this one isn't highly accurate, so locating is pretty simple. We have an edge finder. Don't even know if we're actually going to need the edge finder, and I'll show you why when we get over to the mill. Okay, so we've got that. But in the thinking about what we're going to do, I've laid out my tools. Okay, so we have a 1/8 inch end mill, and that's going to be to create the flat that our locating pin will go in. Here's our edge finder, our drill chuck, which I keep in the package because this is a very nice drill chuck. If I'm not using it, it is in here. Okay. We've got our center drill, spot drill for, you know, obviously drilling, our drill bit and some pins. Okay, these are rivets, but we're just using them as pins right now. Okay, obviously our calipers for whatever we might need to measure, some cardboard, all right, fixturing equipment, and our slitting saw. Got a couple extra blades over here in case we end up going through, you know, a blade doing this, damaging something. And we've got our glue gun, which we'll talk about when we're over there. So in this process, I've gone through, I got my piece, okay, I've got work holding figured out, I've got indicating figured out, and I've got my drilling. Everything I believe that I need should be laid out right here. So that's going to do a couple things. Okay. One is I've got all my parts and I've gone through my thought process and I believe I have everything I need. But the second part is that I'm not going to be running back and forth to my toolbox 100 times when I get this set up. So hopefully we've got everything we need. We're going to get over to the mill and talk about the remainder of this process at the mill. Okay, so here we are at the mill table. I'm going to pick up our parts so you can see what we've got here. Let me move this over back to the bench. Okay, so we've got our 4 studs stuck in the milling table. And I did change out to the larger triangular blocks. And I didn't know which size straps I was going to use, so I ended up using my medium-sized straps. That worked out the best. So we're going to go ahead and get this clamped down, but what I wanted to show you was this setup, how we're doing this. We're going to clamp internally on the lip inside of that fixture. So let me go ahead and get the piece, and I'll show you the other components that are going to go into this. All right, so I'm not sure if this will come out on camera or not. I'm trying to be quiet, see if you can hear it. This is not flat and it's not level. Let me put my mic inside so you can hear that rocking. Okay, so what that means is that this isn't flat, okay? Which, if we're doing steel, okay, big deal, not a big deal. Iron is very, very rigid. And if I were to clamp this down tight, what I'm going to do is induce stresses into the part. And then as I'm doing my cutting operation, I have no idea what actually is going to happen here with those stresses being induced. So that is specifically where these come in. Cardboard it's really amazing in the shop. If you haven't used it, I mean, you know, I picked some thicker cardboard here, but you can use thinner as well. But because paper is compressible, it'll help take up that slack and hold this piece stable, but not induce those extra stresses from the hold dog clamps trying to push it completely flat to the table. So we're going to put some cardboard in here and tighten this down. We're going to get it snug. Then we'll get the saw in and make a look at our side here just to be sure that we're, you know, approximately centered where we want to be. We'll spin the table around, move it in whatever direction. So let me go ahead and get this piece done, and then we'll get on to the next step here. So we're going to put this cardboard right underneath where the clamps are going to go. Okay, and I'll get a picture of this after the fact so you guys can get a better idea of what we're talking about. And I have to rotate that because I've got a cutout in here. There's a cutout like this on the opposite side that obviously we don't want to put a clamp over. So we'll get our cardboard in here. Okay, equidistant roughly. Get our straps in. And of course, my bolts are too long. Let me go get my shorter bolts and come back for this. So I'll grab those off camera. Okay, so our plan of no plan survives first contact is already showing itself here. Our bolts were too long, I just didn't have enough thread. So I'm going to move the camera here so you can see what we've done inside. So we've got our strap clamps, a piece of cardboard to take up the distance, and of course our little riser blocks all the way around. So we're going to tighten those down snug. We don't need to have them ridiculously tight, just enough where this doesn't move during the cutting operation, and we're going to take that very easy when we go around. Not so much for the cutting part, but I need the saw to last, I don't want to damage the part, et cetera, et cetera. So let's get back over here, and I'm going to grab a wrench and snug those down. Let me get the camera back roughly where it was. Okay, snug those down, and we'll come back with the next steps, which is going to be the saw in the arbor and doing some alignment, and we'll talk about that as we go through. Okay, while I'm snugging these down, I'm going very, very gently here, putting very little pressure on the wrench and working in a circular fashion. I want to try and get this even. I'm really only turning the wrench till I start feeling, I won't even say significant resistance, moderate resistance on these. And I'm just going to keep going around and snugging them up. And just letting that sink into that cardboard more and more. There we go. Now I'm getting significant resistance on that one, which would mean I basically have the cardboard compressed. Okay. There we go. That's pretty tight. Also, putting a piece of cardboard in a hard surface on a hard surface, they slide really easy. That does give some grip to keep things from moving around. It sounds silly, but a little piece of cardboard, notebook paper, anything like that can bite into irregularities in a surface and really help keep it from moving. Okay, I think we're snug enough for that operation. So we'll get the slitting saw here. Air on. Headphone alert. Okay. There we go. Got our slitting saw in. We'll move us over a little bit. Probably gonna have to readjust the camera for you. Okay, there we go. And all this is for is really just get an idea of how centered we are. We're going to line that up roughly. Let me move this a little bit. Boy, that light is in a bad spot. It's set up for my vise, not for the rotary table, so the light was casting a ton of shadows where I don't want them. Probably going to have to move that. There we go. And what we can see here is that we're above the approximate center. There's a casting line right through here that we really want to try and hit. Let me see if that's better with the light off. Nope, I just have to move my lamp. Okay, that lighting's a little bit better, I think. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring our slitting saw down just a little bit more to reach that casting line I had mentioned. There we go. Now that we're here, all we want to do is rotate the rotary table and just see how close to center we are. If we have anything massively out of round, because all we're doing is we're going to make a slit across here. So I'm rotating the table, watching the distance between the table and the slitting saw, and also watching its relative position to the height here. Okay, we look pretty darn good there. We probably go between 3/8 and I don't know, maybe a hair over 3/8 and 5/8. 3/8 to a half maybe distance from there, but it's fine because when the saw goes in, we're just going to go through the material, and as long as the blade is through, that's all we really need. All right, so we've got our slitting saw sized up. Now it's time to move on to the milling and drilling operations to put the locating pins in. So now that we've done all this and just validated this is in an okay position, we're going to take the slitting saw back out, put in the drill chuck, and do the marking, indicating, and drilling positions for the pins here. So we'll get set up for that one, and as I always say, we'll come right back. Okay, we got our slitting saw arbor out. We're going to put our drill chuck in. There we go. Turn the air off because I have a leak and it drives me nuts. Fix that one day. Okay. So I'm going to leave my other components over there because they're small and easily lost. And we're going to commit machinist sacrilege. I'm going to put an end mill in a drill chuck. Oh, panic. No, all we're really doing is making a flat just to get the hole started. So we shouldn't have a problem at all. Just making a flat with this. And I don't know why in the world, but I will pretty much guarantee you that I have never turned a hand tightening chuck the correct direction the first time. Almost guaranteed. Okay, so now what we're going to do, and this is something we're going to talk about a little bit here. We're going to put this pin through the side of here. Okay. Now, as machinists, one of the things we always want to do is we strive to make every single thing centered and even and, you know, evenly distributed in the whole deal. Well, sometimes we got to work on idiot proofing. And if I were to put a pin in exact opposite locations, it'd be really easy for somebody to get this turned around and pinned back in and then effectively cast the wrong way. So I'm going to put a pin off center and then off center on the other side. And what that's going to do is make it a shorter distance from here to here than it would be any other location. That way there's absolutely no way possible to put this together wrong, because those pins would not line up in any other orientation. If they were directly across from each other on the center line of the part, it'd be easy to get the top and bottom 180 out. So we're going to go through, and again, we're off center already. That was set up when I put the rotary table on the mill on purpose, but we're going to go through and drill that hole. Now what we have to do is this material is right around 3/16 inch thick. It's hard to get a caliper in there to see, but I'm just going by feel. So we're going to come in and line up on the edge, bring it up, then bring it over, so we know for a fact that when we drill through, that we will go through both pieces. It doesn't matter if on the inside the pin is visible. That doesn't matter at all. So that's just something that's going to help us align it, when we put it back together again. So we're going to come on down, pick up our edge. And that's a little more off center than I want, so I think I might move it in a little bit here. Sorry, I have to move the camera in order to rotate that in. I apologize. Thought I had my position all fixed here. We'll get you back in for a better view. Okay, now we're going to lock our X and Y because that should be pretty much, well, we got to move one in a minute when we go to the other side, but we'll unlock that. So these aren't locked tight, they're just snug right now. There we go. This, come up, and clear that. All right, and 3/16 is 0.187. So let's go take a look here and see how we look. That's a 3/16 end mill. So we're moving that whole 3/16 in, but we haven't accounted for the end mill, so we're actually going to double that. That way we're at least 3/16 from the edge, okay? Okay, and that doubled equals 375. So let's go take a look and see where we look like here. Oh, sorry, kick the camera. 3. $375. There we go. Yeah, that's going to be too much. I can see there. What happens is we're too far in this way, and the pin would rest in the top of here and the rest in the bottom there. I want to catch more of the vertical material if I can. So let's go back a little bit over. Get an idea. And this is nothing more than giving me just a visual of, do I have cast iron on the outside? And I do. Okay, that looks pretty good. And we are 2720. Let's make a note of that, 2720. And very slow because we're using a teeny little end mill on quite a curved surface here. Get over there with some light and see. A little more. This is not a center cutting end mill, so I can't go necessarily very deep once we get the full diameter of the end mill. There we go. And we'll change up to our center drill and our drill bit. Now this I do have to see. I'm not sure if I've got enough. I'll be able to get a dimple in there, but not much. There we go. And that's all we needed for that, just enough to get the drill bit started. And yes, I know this is a lot of stick out for a small drill bit, but we've got to be able to go all the way through there. So we're going to speeds up a little bit. And what we'll have to watch for is on the back side, when we come through, we're going to be on the inside of a curve, and I don't have a way to spot or center drill that. So we're just going to have to go extremely slow and let the drill bit chip away until it can start on the opposite side. Okay, I'm going to move the camera to the other side so you can see a look from the inside and see what's going on in there as we're doing this. So you can see there's the spoil that came out of our drill hole. I'm going to move that. And there's a tiny little pass through. Shine a light here. That you can see that we've gone through. So we're going to drill that just a hair deeper. And now, before anything moves, we're going to get our pin and fit it to be sure. Should be about 1/1000th clearance based upon the size of the drill bit. There we go. Perfect. That fits in just right. And let's check with our pin now. Perfect. There we go. So now we have our two pins that are off center, so there's no way that they could be flipped and rotated 180. We're going to go back to the other side, really just because I centered the rotary table pretty much on there, and there's a lot of hangout on this side. I want to come back to get us more in balance. So I'll just get everything readjusted where we were at the slitting saw, and we'll start with the cutting operation. Okay, here we are resetting for the cutting operation. So let's go ahead and get our drill chuck out. Get our saw back in. Tighten that up. And what we're going to do here is we're going to put the mill in back gears. Turn this off. Because we're going to run that saw kind of slow. And the back gears help us do that a little easier. So back gears, and then we reverse the mill. You'll see it starts wrong way. And we hit our reverse. There we go. And before we tighten anything, let's go in here and make sure our set screw is snug for that blade. There we go. So we'll bring this down table up. There we go. We are pretty good halfway. I will move this a little bit so you can get a better shot here. All right. So we've got the saw set. Let's go ahead and check our rotation once again just to make sure we've got good clearance. Just want to make sure we're not going to pull out of the saw as we're cutting around. Okay, there we go. We are good. So we're going to start this out. Now, we're going to talk about the one surprise of the moment. This is cast iron. Cast iron is very brittle, as we all know. And as we cut through here, what's going to happen is we're going to have an unsupported section, and then the other piece will hold all the stresses. So as we get towards that other side, what will basically happen is this side's going to drop, and it's going to crack that side. That can do two things. One, leave a crack on the other side that maybe could be fixed, maybe couldn't. But also, if that drops while the saw is in it, what that's going to do is then pinch the saw blade, which could cause damage to the piece, could make the top go flying away, could do whatever. That's where the hot glue gun comes in. So as we cut, what we're going to do is fill that with hot glue periodically. And that does two things. It's going to hold that piece up so it doesn't fall down. It gives it something solid to rest on. But the hot glue also helps dampen a little bit because it is a little soft and a little flexible. So as we go through and cut, we'll end up hot gluing every so often, and then that'll adhere the top to the bottom so it doesn't come off. And then when we finish the cut, it will keep it from dropping down onto the saw blade, all kinds of good stuff. Okay, so here we go. This will probably be a time lapse, by the way. I anticipate this to take a very long time. Okay, here we go. We're going to move the camera for the last cut here so you guys can see it from the inside. There's a nice perspective over there. There we go. Here's our cutter. There's our other pin location, and there's our first cut. We're just going to finish this up. There we go. Our pin is through the hole. And the last little bit of support coming out. Woo! There we go. All right, here we are at the bench. We've got our piece. As you can see, there's the first pin that we put in. Here's the one that we put in near the end to keep everything aligned, and we're still basically glued together. So we're going to go and cut the glue off, take the pins out, and see what we've got. Take out our pin, and voila. All right, well, I really hope you enjoyed it. It was a challenging and fun operation. Please, if you haven't liked and subscribed to our channel, please do. Down below, hit the like and subscribe. It really does help a lot. The YouTube algorithm is built all around it. YouTube's all about how much money they're going to make. And if you like and subscribe, they think they're going to make more. I'm not sponsored. My videos aren't monetized. They're not going to make a dime off of me. But, you know, it helps the algorithm. So thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great night.